The typical first-time homebuyer is now 40 years old in the U.S., which is a record high, and maybe not a surprise as affordability makes it tougher and tougher for younger families to find a home. We're going to talk about this recent trend, find out if cross-country mortgages are seeing the same thing, and really talk about what this means overall. Welcome into the Smart Mortgage Show. Great to have you again on the channel. I'm Ben George with Bill Litton at Cross Country Mortgage. You'll find him online, smartmortgageshow.com. So the National Association of Realtors recently released their annual profile of the home buyer and home seller. And Bill, for the first time, the median age of the first-time home buyers rose to 40 in 2025, which is up from 38 the year before. And even if you go back just a couple of years on their chart, you're talking 33 years old in 2020. So a pretty stark jump over the last 5 years.
Yeah, it has been a 7-year jump in 5 years. Pretty dramatic. We think that has a lot to do with inflation, both in goods and also in the housing market. So house values have, at least in the area that I'm in Chester County, Pennsylvania, we've seen a 60% increase over the last 6 years. So that's making it really hard for the 33-year-old salary to cover the expenses of qualifying for a mortgage and the payments and the expenses of home ownership. So it's been difficult.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at the chart, and we'll try to share it here, but we're going to link the article as well in the show notes so you can actually kind of read through this and see some of the data. I think it's interesting because I would have just assumed, right? Okay, we hear about the 80s and the 90s and how affordable everything was. There's a lot of memes on social media right now about that. And there is some truth and validity to the affordability issues that many Americans are facing. But I guess I was surprised looking back to the chart that, although we've had this big jump over the last 5 years, you go back to 1980, the median age was 29, and it kind of ranged between 29 and 32 up until, just about 2020. So you're talking about 30, 35 years where it kind of stayed in that same range and then had this big jump. So I was kind of surprised. I thought it would be much more of a gradual increase rather than this big jump, but I don't know if there's anything to take away from that. I thought that was interesting.
But I think it's super interesting. And I think that, a lot of times when something raises that dramatically and drastically, we can also see it decrease dramatically and drastically. And the hope is that if interest rates come down and if there are some new products that are made available to help first-time home buyers, that we can start to move that down in, the direction of catering to younger folks to become first-time home buyers. So it's been really good news that the stability in our housing market has kept that age range pretty tight for so long. Unfortunately, the pandemic caused lots and lots of disruption and pushed that age up. But we do feel like the powers that be, the industry, the Fed, everybody's trying to make it easier to purchase at a younger age. So over time, we think we're going to start to erode at that higher number and bring it back down.
Yeah, the other interesting part of this is repeat buyers are also the oldest on record as well. The typical repeat home buyer is now 62, which is the highest it's ever been. And this is also a number that's actually increased pretty steadily over time. So not a surprise there. But let's talk a little bit about why this is so important. Obviously, outside of the clear, hey, is this a big concern for families that are trying to save and build equity over time? Just to kind of point it out, that home equity is the big thing in this conversation because, as they point out in this article, someone that buys a home at 40 versus 30 is losing out on about $150,000 in equity on their starter home in those 10 years. So that could be a huge, significant difference for you as you're planning towards the future.
Yeah, if you look at the average net worth of a renter versus a homeowner, the average net worth of somebody who owns a home is dramatically higher. And if you look at, and we talk about this a lot, Ben, is time in the market. The more time in the market, even the more dramatic yet that difference is, because the longer you're in the market, the more you've enjoyed the appreciation that the housing market in the U.S. has afforded all of us, right, that are homeowners. I mean, it's a really tremendous opportunity. I'm super grateful for this market, just for the average citizen that gets to buy and own a home and appreciate, have the value of the home appreciate, and also the industry that I'm in benefits greatly from it. So getting people to be able to get into the market at an earlier age only benefits them to enjoy the appreciation over a longer term. Based on this article, $150,000 in equity from 33 to 40 years old. That's a big difference.
It is a huge difference. So let's talk then again, Bill, for someone that maybe is feeling a little frustrated with the process and, finds himself thinking they have to wait till this age of around 40. What can a good lender do to help you out? I mean, do you often find that people are in maybe a little bit better shape or have more options than they expected when they first meet with you?
Definitely. I think that if you're kind of going it on your own and you don't have all the information, you may just wait a few extra years. And that's not necessarily required if you qualify sooner. So talking to a lender, and if you don't qualify sooner, that lender is going to tell you how to qualify. So with us, it's never a no, it's a when. Okay, we can't do it today, but if you follow these steps, you'll be able to do it in a year. Whereas if you do it on your own, it might take you 5 years, and we'll fast track it for you, get you in a position to buy sooner or younger in this case.
All right. Again, you can text the word LEND to 21,000 to begin that process and begin talking about it, right? Get a better idea of where you stand, some of the options that are available. Let Bill get a better idea of your full financial picture, and then also what your financial goals are moving forward. All that plays into the process at Cross Country Mortgage. Anyone that's thinking about getting into a home for the first time, Bill, now, and give us a couple tips maybe that they could be thinking about to maybe help improve their position moving forward and maybe hopefully get them into a home earlier.
So really, really important is your credit score is, not that you can't buy a house if your credit's not perfect, but the higher the score, the lower the rate, the lower the fees. It affects so many aspects. So just having really good credit, make sure you never miss payments on credit cards, even if the balance is super low. Try not to max out credit cards because the utilization ratio is really important. The other piece is, not having a lot of debt. So try to run lean. If you don't have the cash to pay for something, you should think about how much you really need that thing. Now, car loans are necessary for most people, so that's okay. Just, if you're trying to buy a house and you want to buy a $100,000 Mercedes in the same year, just be aware of how that might inhibit the ability to buy the house, or talk to a lender about that. And lastly, save as much money as you can. It is not a requirement to put 20% down, but it's very hard to get in with no money. There are a lot of misleading internet advertisements or late night TV shows that say, go buy your house with zero money or we'll give you money back. And although it can be done with very little money in rare instances, usually, and especially to get good terms, usually you do need to have some money saved. So save money, limit your debt, keep your credit scores high. That's going to put you in the best position possible.
All right, very good. Well, if you want to speak with Cross Country Mortgage, again, they'll be happy to help you out and discuss what your options are. It's very simple. Just text the word LEND to 21,000 to begin that process with Bill Litton and his team there. So, Bill, again, I know it can be frustrating and maybe make people a little pessimistic about being homeowners, but there's a lot you can do, and there's a lot of hope out there. And hopefully 2026 will bring some more positive energy people's way. And hopefully that number, again, as you pointed out, might have a sharp decrease here in the near future as well. So not all hope is lost, but make sure you work with a good lending team to help you through it. Bill, as always, appreciate the insight.
Thank you so much.
This program is for informational purposes only. Please consult a qualified professional before taking any action. Bill Litton is a loan advisor and regional president with Cross Country Mortgage, NMLS number 147060.